What's up, guys, and welcome back to Prepare to Read. My name is Marcos, and I'm here with my good friend Jacob. Today, we're talking about Way of Kings chapters 44 through 47.
Yeah, actually just 46. I didn't read 47. That was if I said 47, I'm sorry.
You didn't read 47?
No, I only wrote 46 up
Okay,
to 46. It's
44
because
through 46 it is
40,
then.
45 and 46 are meaty chapters with like content to talk about. So I didn't get to 47.
Yeah,
I figured
no,
this would have been like a
45
2-hour
is a lot.
podcast. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump into it then. Chapter 44 is the weeping.
Hold on,
Um,
buddy. It's been
okay,
89 years we've been
since what?
gone since we last recorded.
It's been like a year, I think.
It's been like a year, so we're back. I'm super excited. I have not touched this book since the last time we recorded. Uh, Long story short, I got sick and then a whole bunch of stuff happened and here we are. So, yeah, just super excited to get back into it. Again, shout out to everybody who's commented on the YouTube and in the Discord and really you know, really brought us back to it cuz this was there's a lot going on. So,
Yeah, keep on posting in there, talking in there. Jacob and I were both reading, watching, playing different things, so we're always up for talking about it. And if anybody finds this on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you want to talk with other people about whatever you're reading, watching, go ahead and join. Also,
all right.
cool. All right. So getting into it, chapter 44, The Weeping. We have another Kaladin chapter. This is another one of Kaladin's flashbacks. So in the beginning of this, we have Kaladin, and he's with his little brother Tien. And Tien is pretty much talking to him about his carpentry. He's giving him a carved wooden horse that he made. And Kaladin's kind of struggling with some of the things that his father's been doing, such as how he's spending his fears, and if they're going to find out about the dad having these fears. And the mother comes out and joins them. She kind of starts to talk to him about what the dad's doing and why he may be doing it, or helping Kaladin kind of think through it.
Yeah, I think in this one, in this chapter, before we get to the weeping part of it, you really see Kaladin's depression has been a thing since before he went to war, and obviously
Yeah,
we
he's a little
know,
sad boy.
yeah, we know he lost people, and all the trials that he's faced, but it seems like it predates that. Like he literally has seasonal depression right now. We're in the weeping was a miserable time to do this work. I guess it's a weather like a weather event. The high storms go away. And I actually underline a line here where he says he actually missed the high storms with their rage and vitality. These days were dreary, and he found it difficult to get anything productive done, as if the lack of storms left him without strength. So I think two things there. One, I think it mirrors like seasonal depression, and not that I would get like depressed, but when I was living, in Missouri and it actually got super cold and it actually got to where you couldn't travel out during the winter on like the desert, that's different. So him feeling that, I don't know, it's different seeing that
I
now.
thrive in that.
You do?
Oh yeah, dude. Whenever it's cold, it's rainy, I don't have to go anywhere. That's Dude, if it's sunny and hot, I'm like,
Well,
I don't even open the blinds. Like, I black out everything.
if
I
it's
don't.
if it's rainy, I'm cool with. I've never had a problem with it being rainy. I love it whether we're going out or we're staying in to watch a movie. The iciness where it's just, like, stressful to drive and then
Oh,
it's
yeah, snow's different than ice.
dark, yeah, dark by 4, that type of vibe after a certain amount of time, like, cause it was long winters compared to what I
When you
was
have
used
to go
to.
to work at 5 a.m. and you have to dig your car out of the snow,
Yeah.
you really don't like snow
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, and then you go in, it's dark, and then you get out, and it's already dark again,
Yeah.
like, that would really get to me after the months of it going on.
Well,
S
also with Kaladin, another thing that I think I could understand kinda why he's going through such a dilemma is he really upheld his father and had this really high view of his father, and then we see everything that happens with the father, pretty much stealing these spheres, right?
Mhm. Actually
And
stealing them.
yeah, actually stealing them, and that kinda reminds me of, everybody kind of has, different figures that they hold up high in their life. I won't throw out any names, but one that Jacob and I have in common is like a band director that we had from middle school. And me and him have both talked about because band directors,
They
I
have
don't
a
know if there's
track
any band
record.
directors hearing, but they have a track record where we're from.
Yeah,
And
it's not a
me
good
and
one.
him, it's not a good one. And me and Jacob have been like, man, if that happened to this director, I couldn't, I couldn't handle that.
Yeah, it would.
So
I actually have a quote. I've never read this book, but I've seen it tossed around on Reddit and stuff like that. But it's from East of Eden, and it goes kind of to what you're talking about. When a child first catches adults out, when it first walks into his grave little head that adults do not always have divine intelligence, that their judgments are not always wise, their thinking true, their sentences just, his world falls into panic desolation. The gods are fallen and all safety gone. And there is one sure thing about the fall of gods: they do not fall a little. They crash and shatter or sink deeply into green muck. It is a tedious job to build them up again. They never quite shine, and the child's world is never quite whole again.
mm,
But I really
tasty.
think you see that with how, like you said, Kaladin put his dad up on a pedestal, and his dad's a great person, I think, in this world, especially with
Yeah.
what's going on. Like
It introduces to Kaladin, I think, the idea of things being gray.
yes, and
But from your quote, it also can be seen as kind of one of the first notches on
signs,
him of becoming an adult, of
yes.
seeing the real world.
So we went off a tangent there, but that was the one thing of the seasonal depression and that stuff. But then the line that says, "As if the lack of storms left him without strength." I also took that literally because we know he somehow, we don't know why yet, but we've gotten heavy hints pretty much laid out for us now that he draws power from the high storms in some shape or fashion, and it has, I think personally, like, kept him alive somehow in this whole thing. Um, but yeah, so I just wanted to point out those 2 things. I think that line is supposed to be like, "Oh, yeah, he actually, you know, spiritually gets stuff from it, but then he's actually literally
Yeah.
getting energy from this stuff." So sorry, you can continue.
But yeah, I mean, the next two big things that kind of develop Kaladin a bit is he decides he's going to be a surgeon. He's like, I made up my mind. I know the future I want. I'm going to become a surgeon. And then also this whole conversation with Liren about Laurel being engaged. Uh, that one definitely throws a wrench in Kaladin's childhood crush
Yeah,
because
it's
Laurel was kind of his girl.
it's become so he doesn't Sanderson, I feel like, just from what I know of him, of hearing about people, I know he'll never go, like, super hardcore that way, but it is very perverted in a way of, like, you have this not in a bad way, just, like, it makes you feel a certain way when you have
It,
this girl that's Kaladin's age
oh
getting.
no, dude, I laugh because you might see if you're listening, you might see a video pop up about us talking about Berserk potentially, and Berserk touches on some of this. And let's just say, wow,
Yeah.
this type of stuff. This is a lot more lighthearted, and I think it's a pro for Sanderson, I guess, depending on the type of reader. I could see it being a pro or con. He is, I would say, a lot more lighthearted of a writer. You're not going to expect like a George R. R. Martin level of like darkness in his stories. Um,
But he gives you enough to be like,
yeah,
it sits with you, or you're like, "Oof," like, you think of, like, they used to be friends. She was pretty much, like, betrothed to Kaladin before he even realized it, you know?
yep,
And
it's
just the
definitely
the
weird.
the path that she's gone down, and her whole thing, I think, is if we were to be inside her head, it's survival. Like, she is doing what she needs to do to survive at this point, and it's I don't know if we'll ever get more of her or we'll get deeper into her perspective, but I I I
Mhm.
don't know. I
It would be cool to
actually
actually hear this from her perspective.
yes, it would be. But yeah, so we're at the weeping and well, you also brought up about Kaladin being a surgeon. We know he's not gonna be a surgeon from where we're at, we get there, and it's just when he has that finality in his mind of like, "You know what? I'm gonna go be a surgeon. That's my way out." And his mom's even like, you don't really have to be a surgeon. Like, you can go and study and find out what you wanna do there. Like, if you wanna follow your dad, great." And he's like, nope, like, I wanna go do what my dad does. And I just knew this is gonna be the chapter that we know why he doesn't become a surgeon. It was just so final, too final.
Yeah. Well, getting into that, at this point, Rashon announces that Amaram, one of the Bright Lords, is here to recruit. And we get our kind of our Hunger Games moment. You know, he comes out and he's like, "All right,
Literally.
boys, we're here to take you to war." And one thing that I did really like that Sanderson put in there is how a lot of the kids didn't step up that would say that they were going to. And I would imagine we haven't lived through something like this, but I can imagine that was probably something similar with like when the world wars were happening,
Yeah.
where people would be like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna enlist, I'm gonna go fight." And then recruitment would come and it's like, "Oh, no, I
Yep.
can't. I can't."
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
And it's a lot different when you're looking down the what is it? The barrel of the gun.
yeah. So yeah, Amram starts recruiting and he kind of leaves it first up to the people saying like, "Hey, volunteer, but if you guys don't get a certain number of volunteers, um, I'm going to start picking people."
And I love the contrast between how do you say his name? Amaram
Amram?
and Roshon, where it's like Amaram doesn't seem like a bad guy, at least as far as we know right now. Like he's like, hey, you know what? Like he's like almost apologetic. This war is going on, but we still have. I mean, like the wars of rich people, but he's like, we still have stuff going on here. So like, I don't want to take like if you guys volunteer and we have enough people, I'm not gonna just draft people, but also we need people. But he's very like, hey, I hate doing this stuff. Pretty much.
Yeah, he's a military guy. He's like,
Yeah.
"I got to do what I got to do. Sorry."
Yeah, but he's not as vindictive as Rashon is that we see later on.
Yeah. So then as Rashon starts to read out different names of people that are have to go, they aren't volunteers. The last name that he reads is Lil Tien. And I think it's funny that Amaram even kinda knows a little bit about the situation, is like, "Come on,
Yeah,
man.
he's like,
Like,
"Just
why are you
stop with
screwing
your
with the
small
dude?"
town
Yeah.
squabble." He's like, "I don't have time for this."
Yeah, Rochelle's like, "No, he's going."
"It's my right," or he says
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And Rashon is kinda like that middle manager type Bright Lord, where, like, he doesn't really have power, but he has power over certain people, and he definitely like, likes to pull it on them.
Well, he loves to use it because that's all he has. Like, he has no influence. Like, he is there because he is, for lack of a better term, like, a loser, you know?
Yep,
He obviously didn't cut out wherever he was supposed to be, and now he's just there because nobody else wants anything to do with him.
yep.
Um, sorry, I'm gonna oh, yeah, I'm gonna jump in here because I have something underlined where we're at. And it goes back to what you were saying about, Kaladin putting his father on a pedestal, but I have this line underlined where it's, "I'll be leaving soon," he thought, eager to walk out of Hearthstone and leave these small-minded people behind, to go to a place where light eyes were men and women of honor and beauty, worthy of high station given them by the Almighty. And I wrote down in my little notebook, I put and I'm speaking for myself here, but I put we. I was like, crazy how we feel like status gives character at such a young age. Like you just assume, oh, because this person is in this role, like, that they got it figured out or they do things the right way. And I mean, we see it in Kaladin later where he like hates the light eyes to the point where they're like, even Sill's like, I don't like the way you talk about them. Like, I don't like who you are when you talk about them. And I
Yeah.
think, again, going back to the quote where it's like, when you start realizing, and I'm sure you've noticed this like at work where you meet some of the head honchos and you're like, you? Like, you act
Well, I
like
kinda
this
noticed
and
this a
you're this.
bit with, celebrity culture. I feel like in the past couple of years where if you look at, like, a long time ago, the way that celebrities were viewed by the public compared to how they're being viewed nowadays,
Uh,
there's been, I think, a big shift in that, and I think it's really similar to kinda like how you're saying people view the Bright Lords of like, "Hey, these are Bright Lords, they should be the greatest people, smart, considerate." And they're realizing that that's not how they are, and I
yeah.
think that's really similar to celebrities where nowadays I feel like celebrities don't have the same pool or the same, um, public opinions that they used to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so from there, though, Kaladin has his Katniss moment,
He
where
does.
he volunteers as tribute, and Rashon is like, "Nah, mm-mm, no, it's Tien." And at that point, Kaladin's like, "All right, then, well, I'm gonna go with him,"
Yep,
and he volunteers also. Um, Tough moment for the parents, I'll say. For the
yep,
parents' point of view, they're probably like, "Goodness gracious."
yeah.
And then Kaladin tells them, like, "Yeah, I swear I'm gonna bring him back in 4 years."
And we
Uh,
know, and I think that that is one of the sometimes, like, Dune does it too, where you know how things happen, well, like, before you read the actual events, and sometimes
mhm,
I feel like it can take away moments. I felt that a lot in Dune with some of the stuff, but also, like, in this moment, I feel like it makes this moment hit even harder because you know, like, what happens after. It makes
yeah.
this it's not as, like, exciting as I feel like, The Hunger Games is, where it's like, "Oh, man, like, she volunteered for her, and, like, what's gonna happen next?" So you're like, "He did that, and he still lost him," and it's just like, man, you know,
And
that
they
is
have also
brutal.
set up that Kaladin, like, depending on the character, I feel like hearing certain things they're gonna go through changes, like, how you feel about what they're gonna go through, and they've already set up Kaladin as being, like, a sad boy that doesn't really process things very well,
Yeah.
and now we already know what's gonna end up happening, so it's like, oof, that's Kaladin ain't gonna take that well. He's not gonna handle what's gonna happen well.
Yeah, and to your point, there's a part where he's looking around at the people, and he's recognizing some of the people before they think they start calling names, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, that's so and so," and he's like, "Oh, that's the guy whose daughter fell and I couldn't save her." Again, and I'm like, if we see this so much throughout this book where he just brings up, "I couldn't save this person. I couldn't save this person," and, like, even here before, it wasn't his brother, and I don't know how his brother's gonna go out, but I'm assuming it has to do with battle, um, or before he, like, all his, escape attempts as a slave, he's already thinking like, "Oh, yeah, I failed her
Yeah,
and her family." And he is just he does not
and
you're right, he does not process well.
this is kind of some of the initial breadcrumbs, though, of showing also, like, Kaladin's leadership potential, that he's willing to, you know, volunteer to go with somebody who's gonna go to war, most
Yep,
likely. I mean, that's a pretty brave, courageous thing to do.
it
So,
is. It is
cool.
in some places, that starts a revolution.
Yeah. Um,
And then
cool.
I just put here this is my last thought, and then we can jump to some of the questions about this chapter, but I just put Roshon got the last laugh. Obviously, we don't know how it goes down, but or at least in this moment, it looks like he got the last laugh where Tien dies, and Kaladin hasn't been back home since we started reading this book, so they lost both their kids if they didn't end up doing something else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's rough, and I like I said, I like both his parents, man. I think they seem to like good people. I never met them, but they seem like good people.
I feel like that in itself is almost a novelty in books. Usually parents are either, like, absolutely
Absent
terrible
or dead.
or trauma or dead or
Yeah.
whatever to actually have, like, "Oh, yeah, he was raised by good parents." That's
Yeah.
kinda different. So
Okay. So we have a question from the Discord. Chapter 44. We see Roshon enact a bit of revenge, causing Kaladin to ultimately swear an oath to bring Tien back in 4 years. Do you think Roshon wants Tien's conscription to be deadly or just a 4 year long punishment for Liren? I think he wants it to be deadly. It's like a son for a son. He lost his son and he blames Liren for it. Whether that's, well, obviously, he tried to save him in a way because he told Kaladin, he's like, he's gone. We got to save who we can try to save, but not in like a rude way. Yeah, I think he wants Tien to not come back,
yeah,
right?
I agree, and also just the way that he sees himself above, um, the dark eyes, I feel like yeah,
Mm,
he would just want him dead.
yep. And then we have another question here for chapter 44. Would you be able to do that? I don't think I could. And I think they're referring to Kaladin volunteering.
Mhm.
I think for family, yes. I think I'd be able, like, someone really close. I think I wanna say the answer is yes. You know, you don't know until that moment hits you.
Mhm.
Um, but man, I couldn't imagine if I was, like, 16 and watching my 12-year-old sibling go off to war. I mean, that's just crazy. You know that's not gonna end good. And even going back to what I said about Amaram, he's like, "Hey, like, we'll make him a runner. Like, I will do it all I can, you know, within my power
Yeah.
to make sure
Give
this
him
guy
an
does
easy
not see
tour.
the battlefield." Yeah. He's like, "But that's all I can do." He's like, "We need the people," which is in
Yeah.
itself a whole thing. And
I
then we
agree
have
with what you say. It's like, it's always one of those dilemmas. It's like you would want to, but
yes.
it's different if you're actually going through it. I think the only people like, yeah, but I think you have to go through it to be
Yeah.
able to actually genuinely say if you would or not.
Yeah. You would want to. You would want to say you would, but you don't know. Is Kaladin brave or stupid? And again, I think they're referring to this moment. I think it's obviously a little bit of both because I don't know. I feel like the not reactive thing would have been to like talk to your parents because his dad's smart too and his mom. So like they could have tried to like run off with Tien, you know, like and
Mhm.
live off their sphere, you know, something like that. There's definitely an alternative to what happened that might have been a better outcome for everybody. But I can't deny that he's not brave for doing that. Like we said, not everybody would love to say that they would do that, but not everybody would actually do it. So I think it's a little bit
Yeah,
of both.
I I would say he's brave. I forgot the exact quote, but I'm sure that's been quoted in different ways in different books. But the quote is something along the lines of like, to be stupid is like to do something reckless, whereas to be brave is to like um, do something that even though you're scared, you still do it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing something necessarily stupid or reckless, but it is scary. But he's doing it anyways.
Yeah.
So
But no, I think uh, I'm almost we'll talk about it maybe a little bit more in chapter 46, but I'm almost more interested in what happens after this point for Kaladin than where we're at right now, if that makes sense. Like I
mhm,
really want to fill the gaps of from that prologue that we get of him on the battlefield with that crew to him being a slave. Like I want to find out what happens between there because I think it's I don't know. I for some reason something tells me that's really important because we haven't found out about it yet, and I feel like we're slowly one of the final moments in this book is going to be us finding out those events that took place.
yeah,
All right. I'm ready to
cool.
move on to the next chapter if you are.
Yeah. So moving into the next chapter, one of my favorite chapters in the book, chapter 45, Shadesmar. So in this chapter, we're back with Shallan, who is in her studies studying about the meetings that Gavilar was having with the Parshendi before he died. Um, and during this time, she has been struggling kind of with what had happened with Yasna regarding the people who she killed in the alley. And she's pretty much planned to leave for Yakoved with the stolen soul caster that she had taken from Yasna. So in doing this, though, so she's been doing her studies, and then after a couple of hours, Capsule finds her, and they have a bit of a theological discussion about the Void Bringers
Hold on,
before
I'm
she,
I'm gonna stop you.
yeah,
Um, so while she's studying, and we get this is I think anytime a character is reading a book and then they actually like quote that book within the book, um, I always feel like it's got to be some of the most important stuff because we always get people like, oh, they're reading a book, but you don't ever know what they're reading, and we get like pretty much a whole page and a half of like this is what's being written here, and it's a lot about the Parchment and like their discovery and the old with King Gavilar was that his name? Yes, King Gavilar.
yeah, Gavilar.
Like his obsession with them, and just I think I know why I like Shallan so much, or one of the reasons is like as so she reads a couple things. So one of the things she notices, hey, like it's talking about their intricate weapons that they have, and like, you know, the detail that's on them is like crazy, and then it's also like, yeah, and they also wear, like, just simple clothes, and their drums that they use are very basically made. And she's reading about that in the book, and I'm like, "Well, that's weird," like, how are their weapons like that? And then, like, literally right after she finishes that passage, she asks Yasna, she's like, "Well, that doesn't add up." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, right, Shalon, we're on the same page." And then I'm thinking like, "Man, this King Gavilar is, like, really obsessed with these people." And then she goes, it doesn't make sense that he's obsessed with these people, like, he's never been a scholar before, he was a warrior, like, why did all of a sudden he finds these people and now he wants to do, like, study them, and he gets so obsessed with them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know if it's my, like I mean, I'm not an academic, but, like, the way I think is the way, I don't know, he writes her to think, if that makes sense, like, she's very observant in that way, I don't know, whatever you wanna call it, analytical, um, and I always just feel like our line of thinking is so synced up sometimes. Like, I feel like I know her. But, yeah, so we learn about the Parshendi. We also get this little line where it says, "The Parshendi have seen our servants and are confused by them. Where is their music?" Clade will often ask me. I don't know what he means, but our servants do not react to the Parshendi at all, showing no interest in emulating them. This is reassuring. Uh, right there, I would say music to me is like soul. That's how I take that. We've gotten hints about how important music's gonna be in this epic tale, and
Mhm.
them asking about the Parshendi's music or the Parshman's music from the Parshendi, which obviously something's going on in the Shattered Plains where they're at that we don't know about yet. Um, I mean, it's just I don't know. It's that music coming up there is I'm like, okay, this is gonna be huge, whatever we find. And maybe the Parshmen have like quote lost their music and maybe they'll find it at one point. And I don't know, I think there'll be big consequences when that comes around.
Hmm. Okay.
But no, she's reading a lot. And she is like you talked about her like saying, hey, they she's struggling with like what Yasna has taught her, but also she's come around to enjoying it now. Like she's at the point where if her family wasn't in trouble, she would stay, like without a doubt.
Mhm.
I think she has seen the value of Yasna's teachings, um, and like wants to continue them. She's even thought about like, okay, could I ship this old caster over there? Like, do I need to go back or can I just send this to them? Like she is
Yeah, she doesn't wanna give up her studies.
no, she is on board with what Yasna is training her to do. But we know she's got to leave. So sorry, you were saying with was it capsule?
Yeah, well, from there, I was gonna move into kind of the next big action piece, which is pretty much that, Capsule's asking for pictures. So she's starting to draw these pictures, and then that's where, she starts to draw the 2 creatures in the picture. And they're described as having symbols for heads. And from that point, she pretty much goes through this scene where she's running through the halls. She's drawing as she's like moving through these halls and she's seeing like where these figures are. Um, until she eventually ends up inside of her room. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that part? The symbols for heads and the creatures.
Well, so one of the questions I'll ask it here because I mean we're here. What is Shalon drawing? I want to say Spren. I want to say there's some sort of Spren, and I think I said this when she first draws them with the I think he's the king of is it Jacobet? Where are they at right now? I forget. I think it's the king. I want to say they're Spren. Like is it like Mystery Spren, Void Spren, something like that?
Mhm.
That's what I wanna say because they're everywhere, right? We know that there's so many, I don't know how you call it, like, phenomena that have Spren attached to them, and maybe because she is, like, looking on these, like, the Void Bringers and all this stuff with, Yasna,
So you think she's like attracting these?
maybe. I think that, and she obviously has an ability, which they call memory with a capital M. I can't remember if that came up or not. It's been a while, but memory with a capital M. She takes a memory, and maybe she's with that. She's like seeing in between, call it realms,
Mhm.
and like so it's like it's a thing where like are spren always there even when you don't see them, and maybe like okay, maybe you can't see them physically yet because of XYZ reason, but through her drawings and her memory, she sees between the veils, if that makes sense, and can draw them. So I think I really think they're spread. Um, the only thing that I don't know, I don't know. I just don't know what spread it would be.
Yeah.
Maybe guilt. I don't know. Like maybe it's the guilt that's eating her of like just her whole situation that she's in. Um, and we've also seen like we've seen that Spren don't always have to act like Spren because we have Syl. Like Syl is a Spren, but she also doesn't um act like a typical wind Spren.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm gonna kinda let you guide this next part just because I don't want to drop certain things that you don't know or may not know. So on this next part, basically, all I'll say is she's trapped in a room. She's terrified. She touches a glass goblet that's filled with diamond spheres. Some stuff happens, and then now the goblet is filled with blood. And at that point, that's where Yasna arrives, finds her, and to explain the presence of the blood in the room, she pretty much like fakes a suicide.
yeah, suicide attempt. Well, let me read a little bit. This is when she gets into the room and she's drawing and she sees them all around her. She screamed then, jumping to her feet on her bed, dropping the pad, backing against the wall. Before she could consciously think of what she was doing, she was struggling with her sleeve, trying to get the soulcaster out. It was the only thing she had resembling a weapon. No, that was stupid. She didn't know how to use it. She was helpless. Except. Storm, she thought, frantic. I can't use that. I promised myself. She began the process anyway. 10 heartbeats to bring forth the fruit of her sin, the proceeds of her most horrific act. She was interrupted midway through by a voice, uncanny yet distinct. What are you? So we get the freaking nuke right there that she has a shard blade, which is, I mean, like, I remember, I didn't remember a lot of these chapters, but I remembered that part when we had read it so long ago. I
Yeah.
remember where I was like, whoa, like we're getting that. That's what she has.
Well,
It
because Sanderson's built up what that means. Like how like people give up kingdoms for these things. Like
Yep.
it's a very big deal for her to have a shard blade.
Yep. So she's in possession of that. She's in possession of a soul caster. Granted, she doesn't know how to use it yet. And she's getting mentored by basically someone in the royal line.
She's got it all.
I mean, she plays her cards right. She could walk out of here with a pretty penny. Like, she could be the queen of wherever she's from. Jakaved. Well, I guess she already kind of is the ruler there,
So
but
so after the part where all of that happens, she ends up responding to something and saying that I'm
yeah.
terrified.
She says,
What happens after that?
she says, "What are you?" And she's like, "What am I?" She whispered, "I'm terrified." And then it answers her, "This is true." Now, there's two things that I think of, right? Who is talking to her? My mind immediately wants to go, "Oh, it's those figures that are surrounding her." But I'm like, "No, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I almost don't want to believe it just because that's where the first place my mind goes to. Um, and I don't know who's asking her. At first, I was thinking, okay, so now we gotta do my favorite thing. We gotta go to the start of the chapter, right?
Uh-huh.
Little chapter 45, and we gotta read the. Oh, I looked up the name of this when we were first doing this, and now I can't remember them. Um,
Oh, the little quote in the beginning?
yes, it
You want me to read
says,
it?
I got it. Yelegnar, called Blightwind, was one that could speak like a man, though often his voice was accompanied by the wails of those he consumed. So That that being here makes me think that that's what's talking to her. Whatever Yelegnar is and Blightwind, I think that's what's talking to her. And my gut tells me that maybe it's the shard blade. Like maybe certain shard blades. I mean, we've played fantasy games, we've read fantasy books. Like there's a lot of weapons that are magical that have like sentience.
Mhm.
And maybe some of the great shard blades have sentience. And the one she's carrying, because she starts reaching out for it, and that's when she gets the question, like maybe it's that one, you know? Also, we also know her father was involved in some shady stuff because there was, like, secret society stuff going on that we got a hint of.
Mhm.
Um, so, like, maybe he wasn't in possession of one of the good shard blades, if that makes sense, or he got it through, not the best channels. Um,
Yeah.
so so that happens, right? She talks, she says, "I'm terrified." I think the answer of "this is true" is very interesting because it's almost like if she would have said false, like something that was a lie, what would have happened? Would she have gone to what I'm guessing is Shadesmar, where she falls into this like black void filled of pebble things, orbs? 'Cause that's where she ends up next. And like I said, I'm guessing this is Shadesmar. She falls, it's like an ocean. I don't know. It's a very abstract thing going on here.
Yeah. I think it's described as like an ocean of beads.
Yes, yeah. And she's reaching out to one of them, which I'm guessing is the goblet that she grabs onto before she gets transported there. Cause then um, she changes it. I don't know. It tells her like, "I've been as I am for a great long time," the warm voice said. "I sleep so much, I will change. Give me what you have. I don't know what you mean. Please help me. I will change." It just is that how soul casting works? Like, does Yasna go to this place every time she changes something? Does every person who soul casts do this, or was this a very? Because she does it without the soul cast. So I'm like,
Mhm.
is this a Shallan specific thing going on? Is this a power that she's awakened? Um, is it because she's in the possession of a soul caster and a shard blade at the same time, and that's like maybe unique?
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot there. But
there's so much going. You have the creepy things that you can't see, but she can see chasing her. You get the nuke that she has a shard blade. We go to this new place that like is definitely going to be a reoccurring place here, Shadesmar. Like you don't call something that. That's a good name. I know I used to give him crap about his names. Like that's a good name. Um, yeah, we're gonna be back here. And then she soul casts, but not with the soul caster. She does it without it. And it's just like, I don't know, like, I'm like, "You're gonna switch me back to a Kaladin chapter after this? Are you kidding me?" Like, come on, man. Let me find out what
yeah.
happens next.
I think this is
Um,
a really well written chapter though, because to understand it, you have to understand the weight of the Shard's blade. You have to understand the weight of soul casting to actually understand how significant what's happening is happening.
yeah, no,
Mhm.
definitely. He's he's held his punches. He's held his punches a lot this book, and I think I've been kind of,
Well, I've
like
told you that first part of the book was always rough for me to get into. I think I read it a few times before it really stuck with it. Yeah, so it was a little more of a slow burn than some of the other ones.
yeah, and it's like, I think we can talk about when we wrap up the book, but, like, I think there's an argument there for, like, it could have been trimmed down a little bit maybe for pacing and stuff like that, but, yeah, I'm enjoying it, so I don't wanna get too much into that, but, like, he's held his punches, and I feel like we just got, like, comboed right there, where it was just like, you have this horror scene happening, and then you have this nuke, and it's just like bam, 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 and you're like, I don't know, like, you're left dizzy, and it's like, "Okay, by the way, we're with Kaladin again," and you're like, "Whoa, like, hold on a minute, big dog, like, hey, we gotta go back there, we gotta digest that." Um, yeah, very, very well written chapter.
Yeah.
Um, Also, so there's some other things I wanna bring up. She turned the goblet into blood, which is one of the 10 essences, which, again, number 10 comes up a lot. Um, and she turns into blood, and I wonder, like, what is it like Avatar or like, "Hey, you're a firebender," like, it's just innate, she's gonna turn things into blood,
She's a
like
blood caster.
yeah, like, how does that process happen? Is it your vibes that you're feeling at the moment? Is it lineage type stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Why
it's cool you're thinking about it because Sanderson tends to have very hard magic systems where they're like, these things are answered. It's not abstract. So it's cool to see you start thinking through how does this actually work practically?
yes, and also too, like, we get and this stuck out to me, I don't know how I still remember this after after so long. One of the times where she's first in the Palladium, I think is how you pronounce it, she talked about so much of there is soul casted, like, there's the original, I think, structure of the inverted pyramid, but then she's on the guide rails, and they're not wood, but they used to be wood. They're, like they got changed into some other material, but when she puts her hand on it, she can still feel the wood grain, like, it still feels like wood even though it doesn't look like wood. So I'm like, "If she touched that blood right now, would it feel like glass?"
Hmm. Interesting.
You know? Like, that and then I went in a whole rabbit hole of nonsense in my head, and I was just like, "Just move on, Jacob, we gotta read the next chapter." Um, and then also just so, like, we get all that, which I guess you would call plot and, like, lore mystery stuff.
Mhm.
And then she tries to fake a suicide because she has she has no other idea of what to do. Um, and
Yeah,
to
because
me
she has to cover up the blood, right?
yeah, but to me, like, Yasna's smart, man. She already knows she stole it. She already knows she has the soul caster. There's no way she doesn't know, if she was using that thing like that. It just blows my mind. And we have, before we move on so we have all that great stuff, which I think was really good. We also have again, I love Shalon's character. Her whole thing with Capsule where he kinda confesses like, "Hey, I love you, like, I'll go with you. Like, wherever you're going, I'm gonna go."
Yeah.
And she feels for him, like, she has feelings for him, and, she's like she even like, "What was I doing?" Like, "Why did I get myself involved in this?" But then she also has the realization of like, "I
With a
don't feel
holy
like"
man too,
well, she's like, "I don't feel like he does." Yeah, he was about to not renounce his faith, but, like
basically. Renounce his position.
yes, yeah, like, give up his path, um, and she's like, I just don't feel that way about him, and I know I don't, even though I do feel things for him." And I think I don't know how much, like, romance is gonna be a part of this stuff. I've seen some stuff on TikTok where people don't like the way he writes romance, but I'm like, I enjoyed that. That was, like very coming of age of, hey, you're starting a journey that is going to be probably a lonely path, but then you have people in your life that you care about. And it's like you have that moment where it's like, okay, you might have to make a decision on what means more to me and or what doesn't, and do I need to make this decision? So her going through all that of top of everything else that was going on, um, I very I very much enjoy getting into the psyche of Shalon. I think she is a very compared to Kaladin right now, I don't dislike Kaladin, but I think she has a lot more layers to peel back because it's not just he's struggling with, like, feeling like a failure and the depression. She's like she feels guilty for leaving her family, but then she also feels guilty for lying to Yasna, and then it's also, "Well, I have to support my family," and the ambition to go out and do this stuff, but she's also willing to commit crimes, but then also she feels weird that Yasna commits crime, Like, she's, like, religious, but then she's getting taught from a heretic, and it's just, like, this whole, like, conundrum that she's in is just watching her struggle to go through this mentally has been a real treat, and I don't know. I'm almost like I don't want her to leave this little boiling pot that she's in because it makes for such great reading.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot. Sorry, I mean, like you said, this is one of your favorite chapters, definitely one of my favorite chapters of the book. Um, but yeah, so we do have questions. If you unless you had anything else to add on that.
Jump into the questions.
Okay. So, chapter 45, did you catch it? I didn't. I think they're again referring, or I think they're referring to the shard blade. Um, and if you did, I have that like underlined 3 times, bracketed. It was all over. I think when we first originally read these chapters 8 months ago, 10 months ago, I
Yeah.
sent a picture in the Discord. Um, did you catch it? Do you remember if you caught it the first time you read it?
I mean, technically, you don't even know if it is.
Don't don't do that. I know what that is.
I can't confirm.
Chapter 45 is another question. A fair bit goes on in this chapter. I know how much you like Shalon. I do. What stands out to you most in this sequence? The scene of Shalon running through the hallways proves to me that Sanderson totally could write horror if he wanted to. I agree. I think I've talked to you about this, Marcos, where there are some books where like fantasy, like there'll be horror sections in fantasy books. Those have to be some of my favorite sections of all types of books.
Yeah.
Um, like I think of, I'm gonna blank on the name. Will of Time, The Wind that's in the ways. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Those moments that in the first one, I remember I was listening to an audiobook and it was at night. I worked late, got out late, and I'm listening to it while showering. I paused that shit. It's like, not right now. Not not tonight. We'll pick it up in the morning. Um, that that did stand out to me. It was very I agree with you. I think you could totally do horror if you wanted to. I think I'll go with the romance scene because I don't think I was expecting to ever care that much about them because when I don't like Capsule, I like almost don't trust him. But I don't think I'm starting to lean like, okay, maybe I was a little too cynical of him. Um, so I would say that that's what stood out to me the most because all that goes on in this book in this chapter, I love for that to like climb its way up there as far as like, hey Jacob, you got to talk about this when you record. I think well done. So I would say that stands out to me.
Yeah. What stands out to
Um,
me is kind of what Shalon's going through and seeing how it's kinda like mind melting stuff.
it is. She is going through
Like,
a
she's,
lot.
like, schizophrenic, teleporting, potentially, like, just a lot of mental distress that she's under.
And I also think it's
But
oh, sorry, go for it.
I was just gonna say that I think she handles this stuff a lot better than, like, Kaladin would, because I think she is a lot more analytical, she processes things. Um, so yeah.
Well, we'll see because she also faked a suicide. So I mean,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah, I think quick.
again, I think that could be classified as stupid. Quick thinking, maybe not the best this decision. And also
Yeah.
like it interested me, right? Because I don't know how to what I would put this to, but she is well trained, I guess as far as like she came from a wealthier family to where she had access to a lot of stuff. She is gifted in a sense, like her drawing, I mean, whatever. But then she doesn't, I don't know, she looks at that and I don't know what she takes that as when she sees those things because she doesn't want to tell anybody about it. But she has to know, like, I can't be like, I don't know, like, why doesn't she ask Yasna? Why doesn't she show somebody this? Like, is she worried? Like, what is she worried about if she were to act like, hey, I just saw this right now. Like, what the hell is that? Especially the second time. Like, the first time, maybe it's like, oh man, a lot's been going on. But the second time, it's like, okay, these things, one, if I saw something that terrifying, I would think it's trying to hurt me. I don't care. Like, I would think
Yeah.
that thing's coming for my soul. Um, I just I'm curious why the decision is like run away. Like I need to run away. I can't tell anybody about this. I can't show anybody about this. Like where does that come from? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
One last question. What do you think of the reveal of the fruit of Shalon? I guess we kind of talked about it like you said, Marcus, the way he's done it with you kind of understand the shard blades, you know what they mean, and then that not like a oh, and let me get my shard blade out, like the 10 heartbeats, and he's expecting you to know that, like, what that means. I think very well done, and yeah, if you're not paying close enough attention, you can miss it. I think very, very cool.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm ready for chapter 46 if you are.
Yeah, we'll break this one
Oh,
down
oh,
into,
oh, I'm sorry. Real quick, this is more theory stuff. We get a little bit more talk about Urithiru, you know how to pronounce that one?
Uruzuru.
Yes, and Shallan's kinda, like, saying with Yasna talking about it with Yasna, and she's like, "Well, maybe it's here, maybe it's there," and Yasna's like, almost laughs at her. She's like, "I promise you it's not there." So I'm calling it, she's been there. I think Yasna's been
Mhm.
there. I think she knows. There's no
Or
way.
search for it for sure.
Yeah, but I think she knows where it is because we know who Yasna is, and, like, we find out more about her, like, group that she's a part of, like, the Truth Seeker people. Um, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna take the time to look for the name, I'm sorry, guys, but, um, I don't think she would just dismiss Shallan's thoughts like that if she didn't know where it was, you know? So, the fact
Yeah.
that she said that, she knows, guys. She's been there. But, yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Cool. Well, looking at chapter 46, Child of Tenevas, we'll break this one down into kind of a couple parts because there's kind of like three things that happen. This is a Kaladin chapter. So the first part has to do with Kaladin having his dream sequence or he's riding a high storm. And he sees a couple things. He sees a city that seems to be built in a triangular pattern. He sees a man with large eyes wearing white who has just committed some type of assassination or
Yeah,
killing.
he has shin eyes. Ooh, who could that
Shin
be?
eyes. Yeah.
Son.
um, and he gets somewhat of a feeling that the assassin is able to see him.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was
Yeah.
interesting.
From there, the other part of the vision is that he hears a booming voice nearing the Western Ocean. And this voice calls Kaladin a child of Tanavast and of honor and warns him that Odium comes. And when Kaladin asks, why is there so much war? The voice responds, Odium reigns. So what do you think about that? The dream sequence.
Well, I have a lot of things here underlined. So what happens when I don't write my stuff down though, because I don't remember why I underlined it. Um, well, let me go through each of my little underlines here. So this is when we get the POV of the storm. So he roared past the shattered plains. They looked as if something very large had hit them at the center. So to me, what I imagine is, oh, and then sending rippling breaks outward. There's like a crater. That's what I picture in my head when he describes that. Um, aliens. That's my first thought when I hear about that. Like something came here that wasn't from here, and is in the center of the shattered plains. So that's a thought there. I won't dive too deep into that because that's just off a sentence. Next couple paragraph or a paragraph down, there was a large plateau at the center, but with the darkness in the distance, he could not see much. There were lights, though. Someone lived there. So I think if that's not the Parshendi capital, that could be one of our lost ancient cities that we've kind of seen through Dalinar's vision that one time. Like maybe it's that one, maybe it's not, but I think it's one of our ancient cities and surprised people might still be living there. That's my guess on that one. And here's the interesting one. He did see that the eastern side of the plains was very different from the western side, marked by tall, spindly pillars, plateaus that had nearly been worn away. Despite that, he could see a symmetry to the shattered plains. From high above,
Symmetry.
yeah, and, like, that comes up so much, and maybe there is so much in this universe already that, like, has substantial meaning in my eyes, but, like, we've seen it with the names. I forget what Capsule called it. We've seen it with other
Well,
cities.
Shallan was researching symmetry pretty
Yeah,
much.
and so it's like, come on, man. Like, that was there. That was a drop. So I don't really know what to make of it though. Like I tried to think and I don't know. I just knew like, okay, that's very important. There's a symmetry to the shattered plains. I don't know, man. I want to get to the center of the shattered plains. I feel like it's a fantasy trope where you have the like, oh, here's the untamed lands where this certain group of people live, and they're always like better fighters and better stuff like that. But it usually takes a long time to like get there and understand what's going on there. I feel like
Mhm.
Sanderson's gonna get us there a lot faster than the typical fantasy books. We also get the line that oh, well, sorry, before I move to that one. A man stood over two corpses, his pale head shaved, his clothing white. The murderer held a long, thin sword in one hand. He looked up from his victims and almost seemed to see Kaladin. He had large shin eyes. Um, I mean, right? Seth, Sun, Volano.
Son.
What, Shinovar? What's the last part of his name?
Seth, son Shinovar of Shinovar, something like that.
Yeah, you got it. That's definitely not right. We're missing something in there. There's something missing in there. It's a long
Yeah.
name. That's gotta be him, but it's interesting that he feels like he could see him, because like, we know he has the ability I'm already blanking on what it's called, uh, but we know he has abilities, and we know he's a very powerful person, but, like, his abilities don't seem like I don't know. Well, we haven't seen this in it, like, like, he's I don't know, I guess on this side of the continent he is. I don't know. But for him to be able to see Kaladin through a dream is different. That I feel like we haven't been introduced to that power, I guess is what I'm saying. Um, so that was very interesting. Um, yeah, the oath pact was shattered. Men ride the storms no longer. And maybe it's just because like, Dune's been a big thing recently, but the first thing I think of like people are gonna ride high storms. That's gonna be a thing here. Kaladin's gonna travel with high storms. Confirmed. Odium comes, most dangerous of all the 16. You will now go. One of the questions is who I think Odium is. I have no idea. 16 is a new number for me. I went back to the prologue. We don't have a 16 in the prologue anymore. So
Is how many blades? There was 10?
10, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. I actually have no idea. I feel like it's a new we're in new territory here with Odium. And also we saw that like the storm have a face when he was, punished, when they had him hanging during the high storm.
When he
So
was
I'm like
flapping like a flag out there.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I don't think Odium's a god. Uh, he I feel like he might be in the Shattered Plains because we're rolling through that, but he also might be a god. I don't know. I don't know how much we're gonna get into, like, the religious side of things with, like not like in Stormlight Archives religion, like, is it gonna be that really this is a battle of the gods, and right now we're just reading like the squabbles of the common man that don't even matter in this series. Mm. But I have no idea. I guess I'll say he's a god right now. Most dangerous of all the 16. You will now go. Odium reigns.
Mhm.
I also think like probably like when the 16 makes me think like, you have the main big bad guy and then you have like his henchman. Like that like he could be a henchman of the super baddie. But I have no idea. I have no idea who Odium could be, and I really thought about it. I tried to come up with something, but I just couldn't get a good answer. So I'll just say I don't know. That's all I got for that section.
Yeah. Kind of a little open ended, but planting some breadcrumbs for later.
Yes,
Um,
very.
from there, we kind of get a nice little moment with the bridge crew. So Kaladin wakes up. He's trying to fight off everybody and he's startled. Um, he's been trying his hardest to not become this, like, martyr to everybody, but he continues to do these wild things where Sigil is always like, "Oh my gosh," like, this dude, like, prophecy child type stuff. Um,
Yep.
so from there, though, he has a moment where he kinda bonds with them when he accepts a shave from Rock, kind of a part like, a cultural thing there. But the last really big thing is that they get a new crew member, and this crew member is a Parchman, who they named Shen. So,
What do they name?
um, Shen,
Shen. Kaladin gives him that name, right?
Shen, yeah, Shen. Um, doesn't talk, the mute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we'll kind of see the repercussions of that now that Kaladin's awake again.
Mhm.
Um, from there, though, the next thing that happens is Kaladin's walking around camp. And this is where we kind of see some overlap between characters that we haven't seen in some time, where there's an officer beating a whore in the street. And Adolin, our boy Adolin from a long time ago,
Yeah.
comes out and basically defends the whore from the officer. Is like, no, no, no. What are you doing? Like, this is not how we should be. And then Kaladin sees this, and then he tells Kaladin to deliver a message for him and flips him an emerald chip. And Kaladin takes a chip, but he doesn't pass along the message. So kind of a contrast to how Kaladin used to view these high-ranking people, these light eyes, to now how he sees them, you know?
Well, I don't think his worldview changed quite yet. I think he still hates them. That's when I was telling you about it. Still gives him the line of like,
Yeah, but he
I
used to
don't.
like them,
Oh,
or
okay, okay,
he used
yeah,
to
yeah,
look up
yeah,
to
yeah,
them
yeah.
when he was,
Sorry,
like,
sorry,
young.
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that maybe Adeline was a sign of things to come
Oh,
of
no.
him liking
I
them.
think he saw that, I was like, "Screw this dude." Like,
Well, he
he
immediately went to like that was all for show. You know,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh, well, they don't like each other. Like he's just trying to assert dominance in this place.
Yeah, he's
Whatever,
trying to make
whatever.
himself look like the bigger guy, saying, "Don't beat the whore."
Yes. I want to ask you something.
Alright.
What does the word world singer mean to you?
World singer.
You heard of
See,
that
look,
one?
this happens all the time where you ask me things and I have no idea. I swear. You're like, "Have you ever read this series?"
Well,
I
I'm
read it a
telling.
long time ago. Um, no.
So
Yeah, let me see if I can,
Sigil is
rings a bell.
don't tell me anything because we just get very little on it. But Sigil is he's the one that's been like, I got my eye on you, Kaladin. And he's sharing some stories, and he even tells one of these guys, he's like, "Oh, you're from Veden, like that's where your heritage is from." And he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he just knows a lot of things. He's been a lot of places. And Rook comes up to him, and he's like, "I've seen your kind before." Oh, Rock said, folding his arms. "What?" Sigil said. "Azish, we are not so rare." "No, not your race," Rock said. "Your type." What is it they are called? Visiting places around the land, telling others of what they have seen. A world singer? Yes, is the right name, no? Sigsil froze, then he suddenly stood up straight and stalked away from the barrack without looking back. And then later, Rock shrugged, "I do not know much. Are strange people. Say they must travel to each kingdom and tell the people there are other kingdoms. Is a kind of storyteller, though they are thinking of themselves as much more."
Mm,
So this is
interesting.
and he was the one that, like, has noticed that something with the spheres and the light that's, like, captured in them and Kaladin, like, he's the one that's seen all these connections in here, and then he even tells a story, which actually I wanted to talk about because it's kinda weird. Um,
Well,
like,
there's a
he's
lot
very worldly.
there's a lot we could talk about another time about that because, yeah, just keep it in mind.
Okay. Well, he does tell I gotta tell this one story here. He's talking about how he's been to Bub Tharnum, Bubba Tharnum. And he's like, "I
That's
visited
not a
there
great name
once."
right there.
No, no.
Baba Arnum.
I visited there once with my master. He's telling this story, And, like, he kept getting arrested, and he's like, "Yeah, like, they would just find whatever reason to arrest me." He's like, "Well, one time it was my fault." And then this is where he goes. He's like, "The woman there, you see, have these patterns of veins that sit shallowly beneath their skin. Some visitors find it unnerving, but I found the patterns beautiful, almost irresistible. Dot, dot, dot."
Mm.
Uh, and I was just like, "Excuse me?" Like,
That reminds me of that meme, the "Yeah, boy."
I'm like, did he just what? Like, am I picking up what Sanderson's putting down there? That was kinda crazy.
He likes the ink.
Yeah, I was just like, "Okay, that was" yeah, and then Kaladin frowned, and then he just goes, "Hadn't he seen something like that in his dream?" Like, Kaladin, dude, like, I guess you can't pick your bridge crew, but man, this guy's just what's he alluding to here? Um, but yeah, because I don't know, that caught me off guard. I was like, "Whoa." Um, what else do we see here? Oh, there's another part, Kaladin, where he talks about, like, Syl's been hanging around here, and he goes so let me read this little part. To the side, Syl finally appeared, having finished frolicking in the winds of the high storm. He always worried, just a little, that she'd ride away with them and leave him. Like, I like that. I like that little touch. Like, I almost feel like he doesn't see his bridge crew as friends in a way, but like followers. But Syl is his friend. Syl is his friend, and not. I almost want to say like he needs her by his side.
Yeah.
And I think that just that simple sentence really added to Kaladin's character for me. And I really like that. We also see like her kind of not like him a little bit. Like I told you, where she's like, I don't like who you are when you talk about light eyes. And
He's
again,
racist.
I'm like obsessed with the Spren. So it's just like, why is she acting this way? Why is she, like, she's almost like making Kaladin become a better person. Like, one, she pulled him out the depths of despair. Like, he was about to jump into a cliff. Um, and now she's like questioning his like, hey, like, I know these people have done bad to you, but how are you
She's
talking
like
about them?
a moral compass.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. Um, that's just so interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, did she choose him? Is she? Part of me thought that she was the reason that like he was having some of these powers or like discovered these powers. But then we get that line in the chapter 44 where it's he always felt low energy when like the high storms were gone. So I don't know. It just, I don't know. Syl to me is, I think I said before, where like she's gonna come down to be like one of the most important characters of the book, and I think I stand by that. The series, not even just the book.
Yeah.
Um, let me see. I don't really have too much to add on this chapter. I feel like it was pretty straightforward. I'm trying to look through. Oh, there's a good interaction between him and Syl here, where he asks her, "Do you believe in the Almighty? Do you know if He really exists?" She goes, "I don't know. Well, there are a lot of things I don't know, but I should know this one. I think, maybe."
Sounds like me.
And yeah, Kaladin's like, "I'm not sure if I believe." And she tells him, "Well, if you don't believe, then there's no reason to think that the Almighty hates you," because he's talking, his self-loathing that he has. Um, and he's like, "Well, if there is no Almighty, there might be something else. I don't know. A lot of the soldiers I knew were superstitious. They talk about things like the old magic and the night watchers, things that could bring a man bad luck." Syl looked disturbed. The cap and jacket she'd been wearing dissolved to mist, and she wrapped her arms around herself as if chilled by his comments. Then he thinks of Odium, and he asks her, "Have you ever heard of something called Odium? I don't mean the feeling. I mean a person, or something called by that name." Syl suddenly hissed. It was a feral, disturbing sound. She zipped off his shoulder, becoming a dark darting streak of light and shot up underneath the eaves of the next building. So that I forgot about that line until we started talking about this.
Mhm.
That's very interesting. So to me, if Spren are forces of nature, right? Like natural occurring phenomena, and she had that reaction to Odium, and I guess my thought process goes to Odium is a force against nature, like maybe apocalyptic level force, like gonna wipe out existence to where like even Spren wouldn't exist.
Mhm.
And also though, like again, Spren knowing the concept of the Almighty, because like if your dog could start talking, right, which like Syl's talking, which is weird because she's like, she's just like the wind and water in this world. Um,
Yeah.
if your dog could start talking and then he's like, I might know God, that would be like, whoa, what? How do you even know about that? Like that's crazy. Um, I don't know. That's just I feel like you could get a whole enigma into that. But no, good stuff from Syl and Kaladin. We have a question. Um, a fair bit happens in this chapter too, but I'm very interested in knowing what you think about Kaladin's first interaction with Adolin. I think this was a very cool way to like have them collide a little bit. The I love that it was in a way where it challenges Kaladin's view of the light eyes that he has currently. Like
Mhm.
just watching him do the mental gymnastics of like they're all awful, like he's only doing this because of that, like we talked about earlier. Um, and we also see like I don't know, like we know the Colons are honorable. If like I think they kind of hinted like one of some of the last honorable group here. Um, so no, I really enjoyed seeing him there. And then I think we have one more question and we can call it. Oh, what does Odium Reigns mean? Like I said, I'm not quite sure, but it feels very apocalyptic to me.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
Cool. All right then. Well, that was chapters 44 through 46. And next time we'll go ahead and cover 47 through 49.
Yeah,
So
call
if
it.
you guys are following along, go ahead and read those and then we can talk about them.
Sir.
Cool. Make sure to join the Discord if you want to continue to talk. Um, Leave us questions in the Discord or comment below. And we can go ahead and give you guys our thoughts on those in the next episode.
Adios.
Thanks.